Welcome to the ultimate Dyna guide. The first thing you'd probably notice is that this video is very long. Well, I split it up with timestamps. Go to the description. There's a very detailed overview of this video. Definitely feel free to skip around to your skill level or repeat a section you don't understand. I do talk quite fast, and if you're not the most fluent in English, it's hard to process everything instantly. However, I do suggest that unless you are one of the best Dynas in the world, take a look at the basic Dyna mechanics section. I'll be explaining it in a way I've never heard before. Hopefully it might change the way you think of Dyna tricks for the better. One more thing, it is highly recommended to watch and listen as I explain things but also put on helpful visuals. If you want to read the script of this video, which I personally think is quite helpful, please click on the first link. It's also encouraged that you are mildly familiar with Dyna jumping. For example, you should know that if you want to jump to the right, the stick needs to explode on the left. It's also encouraged that you have a little experience with timing jumps. You should be able to hit one double jump in 3 attempts and one triple jump in 5. The reason I tell you this is because if you want to learn quickly, you will need to be able to time jump somewhat naturally because you'll be focusing on the mechanics I'll teach you. If you're not there yet, it's totally alright. I'm just warning you that you might get frustrated if you're not too familiar with it. First, I think it's very important to clarify what all the R's and S's of Dyna language is. Definitely feel free to skip it or play this part at double speed, but just keep in mind that there will be some terminology later in the video. There's been a lot of controversy around this, and this is the final version verified by the Dyna Pros, or at least of June 2021. So first up, let's talk about the main Dyna language, or what I like to call the Dyna alphabet. I'll give you guys 3 seconds to grab a screenshot of this if you would like to refer to it later, but otherwise let's jump in. So let's start with the original 6 letters of the Dyna alphabet. First, this is an uppercase R. It's a basic attack that you jump off. This is a lowercase r. It's a basic attack that you don't jump off. This is an uppercase S. It's a super attack that you jump off. And this is a lowercase s similar to the lowercase r. It's a super attack that you don't jump off. This is an uppercase Z. It's a super attack that you use to shoot the ball. And this is a lowercase z. It's a basic attack that you use to shoot the ball. Now we're on to the more advanced letters of the alphabet. First, this is an uppercase P. Now this is where you jump off Gale's gadget or jump pad. Next we have the uppercase T. This is where you move through the teleporter. We have 2 more letters to go through. First is the lowercase X. Whenever you shorten a jump using a wall or edge of the map, put this letter in parentheses, which are the round brackets behind the capital letter that you originally jumped off. Examples are shown below. And the second is lowercase g. G stands for the second gadget, and similar to X, place this letter in the parentheses behind the regular attack that has the gadget. For example, this would be an R with a G in parentheses. For how the order is formed, basically place the letter in the order that you either place the attack, activate the jump pad or teleporter, or kick the ball. And if you want to be super neat with classification, go ahead and add a dash after each attack or component that you ultimately jump off. Whew, okay, that's a lot to take in, so I'll give you some examples.
But I'm bolder, moving forward, motor, never slower, good to know ya. Don't go make me drop my shoulder. You need to believe you can achieve everything that you dream. Everything that you need is in the air that you breathe. It's in the mind that you feed, it's in the time that you bleed. Every second of life is another blessing to me. And when you feel like you're nothing, but you wanna be something, well, all you really need is hope. I just want you to trust me.
There could be other components in Trickshots invented in the future, such as BB knockback, but for now, this is everything that indicates movement. Now we are finally at Dyna mechanics, what I think is the focus of this video, especially if you're newer to Dyna. This is an important part, so I suggest you give this a listen. I hope that I can give you a new perspective about Dyna tricks. For Dyna jump tricks, it's very important to understand the basic of how Dyna jump works. In total, there are 5 different mechanics that you absolutely need to get used to. The basic jump, the super jump, the basic shot, the super shot, and the wall hug. If at this point you have no idea what I'm talking about, you should probably go back to the first timestamp where I explain what Dyna language is. In every Dyna trick, there are 2 main parts you need to work on: timing and aim. The first part, which is timing, I cannot directly help you on. All I can say is that you need to practice if you want to be consistent. Now there is a trick that pretty much doesn't require aim. This is the R-zS-z Flick. This This is very similar to a triple jump, except that last regular attack that would complete the triple jump is used to shoot the ball. Simply place the ball anywhere on the map, although if you want to have a higher chance of scoring, put it against a wall. Make sure you jump off your regular attack 3 tiles away from the ball, timing the super like in a triple jump at the last possible moment before the regular attack explodes. Here's a quick comparison of a triple jump and an R-zS-z Flick. It's recommended that you have your timing somewhat consistent, otherwise it's hard to learn aim for Dynatricks. Now we're moving on to aim. So anyways, Dynatricks are kind of like geometry. If you put the first 4 different mechanics I just showed you side by side, you will notice that they don't exactly line up together neatly. What I mean by this is if you line them up side by side, they all have different lengths and timing. Your goal as a Dyna trick shotter is to line up the path of the ball with your jump. Well, how do you fix this problem? You take the mechanic that travels longer and you shorten it. Here's a quick graph for Dyna statistics. I'll give you a second to take a screenshot. In this graph, the last 2 columns is the most important. You will see how far the ball needs to travel in the time you jump with your regular attack or super. Let me show you an example. So you are right here, and from here you want to make a basic R-zS-z Dribble. From here you plan to jump using a basic attack. This is where you will land. However, if you shoot the ball will go way past where you want to actually jump. So what do? Look for something you can bounce off to shorten the shot. Look on this map. You can either bounce off the wall from behind, the side, or even forward. And just like that, the ball travels the same overall distance as it did before, but this time you can actually land on it. You can apply the same thing with a super. Since the super travels further, you will have to adjust to it. And this is literally the foundation of Dynatricks. Getting good at pairing these 4 main mechanics quickly is literally how you get good at Dyna. One more time, your goal with Dynatricks is to line up the path of the ball with your jump. If you get good and consistent with pairing these 4 mechanics along with a wall hug, which I'll explain later, you will be good at Dyna trick shotting. Because that's all Dyna trick shots are made out of. For example, a simple dribble that is good to start with is a basic SZ. You can see the ball here. From the tile of the ball, I plan to use my super to jump here. Jumping there will allow me to dribble off the wall so I can catch the ball again. This way the ball travels at 6 tiles while Dyna only travels 5. When you've got the hang of it, add a regular attack to this trick to make it an R-zS-z. Remember that regular attack travels 3 tiles, so you need to jump off 3 tiles away from the ball. This is how the trick will look like. And now you've learned your first Dyna trick. Go ahead and practice this in friendlies and real games. Refer to the graph. On to the next section. If you watch the first section and you're feeling overwhelmed with information, it's perfectly normal. Come back to this video another time. After all, this video is meant to get exponentially difficult in tricks. And just so you guys know, it took me a whole month to master the basic Dyna mechanics section and be able to do a double flick in a trick. So definitely don't rush your learning. Now what the heck is even a double flick? A flick is any main Dyna mechanic, so the R's, S's, and Z's used before Dyna jumps off an attack or jump pad. Anyways, if you're properly using Dyna alphabet to label tricks, you can tell exactly how many flicks each jump has. The letters behind a letter with a dash is what you have to do before you get launched in the air. For example, in R-Z, S-Z, you can immediately tell that there's a double flick, which is the ZS you have to do before the R explodes, and that there's a single flick, which is the lowercase z, you have to do before the S explodes. For example, this is a single flick in a jump, this is a double flick in a jump, and this is a triple flick in a jump. Anyways, we're focusing on the double flick right now, so let's start with a R-S-Z flick. To make it a double flick, let's add an extra Z right before you place the S. This forms the easiest possible dribble with a double flick inside. Notice that if you add a Z, there are now 2 Zs. This means that Dyna needs to land on the ball with a jump right before the second Z, so Dyna can be in the position to even shoot the second Z. And how do we line up an RZ again? Go back to the RZ Dribble timestamp. If you forgot how to line up the ball with the dribble, or in other words, land on it. Basically, Dyna travels 3 tiles on R and the ball travels 5.75 tiles on Z. There is one quick problem though. In this case, you want to be able to shoot the ball into the goal, your super needs to break the walls. This means that you have to use your super in a position that you can jump but also break the walls. Besides that, all you have to think about for this shot besides timing is lining up your R-zS-z. Obviously, although this is the most useful angle, there are many other variations. My hope is that after listening to this video, you guys will understand enough to make your own variations. Here's some angle starters.
I swear to God, man, I'ma make it soon. Silence all the haters as they see us making moves. I do what I want, so I got nothing to prove. Staying motivated, teaching others what to do. I'm staying focused.
Oh, and here's a quick tip that might help you get the rhythm and timing of the double flick correct. Start counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 with an emphasis on 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now every 1 represents a mechanic that you put down right before the jump. So here's an R-zS-z with counting. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. For double flicks, it's a little bit more complicated. You shoot the ball on 3. You still put down a mechanic for the next jump on 1, but you now add a shot of the ball on 3. So here's an R-zS-z with counting. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, I really hope that helps. Once you've mastered that, it's time for the R-zS-z plus another Z dribble, more commonly known as the double flick dribble. The difference between this and the R-zS-z flick is that you need to catch the ball after the S. Essentially, this is a S-z dribble added to an R-z dribble, both of which are already taught earlier in this video, meaning the aim and alignment of the dribble should be no problem at all. And there is also a double flick in this dribble, but once again, you've already learned and practiced how to do that, so this really should be easy for you with a little bit more practice. Let's run through an example anyways. For the R-z, the ball travels 5.7 tiles, while Dyna travels 3, and this is where you will land after the first dribble. Before you jump off the first R, you should have already placed your Z. This allows for a perfect setup for an S-z dribble where Dyna travels 5 tiles and the ball travels 6. Again, my hope is that after listening to this video, you guys will understand enough to make your own variations. Nevertheless, here's some more angle starters.
Like a dragon, demons been demanding. This depression got me manic. Keep buffing the herbs until I'm lost just like Atlantis. I don't really sleep much cause my nights are filled with panic. Lay me down inside the grave, I can no longer stand this. Life is like a card game and I hate what I've been dealt. So fuck all my emotions, I'ma place them on a show.
The Wallhug. This is probably the hardest mechanic to master and definitely one of the hardest to teach. However, if you do get used to this mechanic, it's also the most versatile mechanic. There's a lot of tricks you can do with this. Now, what is a Wallhug? In Dyna tricks, there is a golden rule. You cannot do an R-R or S-R and place something in the middle of these two jumps. This is because of the timing. When you land the first jump, the second stick explodes too quickly for you to place a mechanic in between. However, if you add a Wallhug to the first jump, you can now add 1 to even 3 mechanics in between, depending on how close to the wall you are. Here is a quick chart for wall hugging mechanics. I'll give you a moment to screenshot it. This chart simply tells you how far away from the wall or side of the map you need to be able to do a mechanic in between the R-R jump. The perfect distance, or the last column, is the distance where you can place 2 mechanics before you jump off. Once again, what is the purpose of wall hugs? It's to be able to place something in between an R-R or S-R. Well, how do you do it? First, let's do an RX on the side of the map because there's no minimum distance to be away from the wall. Start by standing the number of required tiles away from the side of the map according to the chart. If you jump into the wall with your R from that distance, you're going to notice that Dyna doesn't fly as high and actually lands faster. If you time a double jump correctly, you should be able to do a mechanic before you jump your second time. And if you stand at the perfect wall hug distance, which are the last 2 columns, you can place 2 mechanics. Now let's do it on a wall in the middle of the map. It's the exact same thing as doing it on the side, except there is a minimum distance you need to be away from the wall. According to the chart, you need to be at least 2 tiles away. If you're too close, you'll jump right over the wall. And obviously, you can do the same thing with your super. I'm going to warn you that super wall hugs or SXs are way harder to do than regular wall hugs or RXs if you do it in the middle of the map. So let's give you an example. So you are right here, and from the ball you want to make a basic R-zS Dribble. Except it's not fancy enough, so you change it into an RSR Dribble. Cool. First plan the RZ, but the starting point of the RZ needs to be against the wall for now. Let's bounce it off the wall like this. R is 3 tiles and Z is 5.75 tiles. You'll land here. Now let's plan the first jump. For an RX in the middle of the map, you need to be 2 to 2.75 tiles away from the wall. And voila, this is how it looks, your first wall hug trick. Now let's do a dribble that's cooler, the RSR Dribble. The first dribble in this video with a super shot or capital Z. First, let's plan out the RZ. Make sure you plan your first R so that it starts from beside a wall because you'll be hugging it in the previous jump. R goes 3 tiles and Z goes a whole 8.5 tiles. This is where creativity kicks in. There's a lot of fun angles and weird bounces that you can still land on the ball with. So here's my RZ. Now plan your RX. Again, the distance for a wall hug is 2 to 2.75 tiles away from the wall, so we will jump from here.
Bending, now I'm spreading and getting my name out now. Yeah, they hear me laugh.
If you get this concept quickly, feel free to add another Z and make it an RX-ZR-Z jump. Remember my tips from the double flicking section, so hopefully you can time it easily. Break it down like the double flick dribble. The first jump is an RZ, except you need to be able to land beside the wall so you can hug it. R goes 2 to 2.75 tiles into the wall and Z goes 5.75 tiles. Perfect, you're right beside the wall. Then here is the RZ. R goes 3 tiles and Z goes 8.5 tiles. So easy, right? Definitely feel free to create more angles. That's the purpose of this video. And now we get to one of the most obscure dribbles. I'm teaching this only for the sake of it, and it might be fun. Right away you'll notice something strange in the spelling. Wait, is that a lowercase s? Yes. I'm not just tripping. Yes, you're not, and please don't take that as a challenge. Anyways, the idea of this trick is a variation of the RSZ flick, except it's needlessly complex. Why is it not a dribble? I personally feel that the only reason for wasting your super is breaking the walls in front of you, so it has the same function of an RSZ flick to wall break and look cool while scoring. Anyways, plan out your first R and make sure that you land on the ball from 2 to 2.75 tiles away. Because this is a flick and not a dribble, you don't need to worry about catching the ball again, and so you don't need to worry about jumping in a specific direction. But I guess you do want to shoot straight so that it actually ends up in the goal, you know? Let's do that once first. Now, with the same tips in the double flicking section, add the S right before the R. And here is what it looks like. Now we're finally on to the triple jumping section. Everything before this section is done in 2 jumps or less. Since we're moving on to tricks with 3 jumps, it's important to be aware of your ammo when planning tricks. Over the course of 3 jumps, you only reload fast enough to do 4 regular attack mechanics and 1 super mechanic. This means that in 3 jumps, only 2 of them will be dribbles since the other 2 ammo is used for jumping. The logic is that 5 total ammo minus 3 ammo used for jumps leaves 2 ammo for shooting the ball. Of course, if you start doing double super tricks, that's a totally different story, but for now, we're focusing on 3 jump tricks with only 1 super. When you get to 3 jumps in a trick, there are many possible variations, so play with where you put your super. Many things are possible, and have fun with it. So quick refreshers. If you already know how to do this, skip this part. How do you know when you need to land on the ball? Look at the spelling for the dribble. If any mechanic has an Z right after it, you need to shoot the ball before that mechanic explodes. In this case, you need to land on the ball after the second R, since you need to shoot the ball before the S explodes. And in this second example, you need to land twice on the ball, once before the second R explodes and once before the S explodes. Without further ado, let's get into the tricks. The 2 triple jump tricks shown in this video are the 2 most common ones. The most common, in my opinion, is the R-zS-z. But remember from the wall hug section, an R-R with something behind it is not possible. That's why a wall hug is necessary, making this trick into an RXR-Z-Z. For this trick, trick, you've already learned all the components necessary, the double flick dribble and the wall hug. So you're not learning anything new in this trick, you're just combining everything together. Let's still break it down one more time. First, find a wall to hug. Although it is possible to hug a wall in the middle of the map with a perfect distance mentioned in the wall hug section so you can double flick, it's definitely recommended that you start with a side or top wall. Put the ball as close to the wall as possible. And just like in the wall hug section, if you're on a side wall, make sure Dyna is less than 2 tiles away from the ball when he jumps so that you have time to put your ZS. And if you're on the middle of the map, start your jump from that perfect distance to double flick before your second R explodes. Just like in a double flick dribble and everything else before this, align your RZ. R is 3 tiles and Z is 5.75. This is where you will land. Then align your SZ. S is 5 tiles and Z is 5.75 tiles. This is how everything looks together.
Either put me on the charts or I'll put you up in flames. Better recognize art, cause I don't forget names. Should've seen me from the start, coming at you like a
Once again, while I hope that you guys understand enough, here are some inspirations.
spit these gold bars while they spitting out shit. Man, I give this shit hard, but it gives me back pain. I wanna be a spectacle, they skeptical, but man, I got the chemical, exceptional. I do it all intentional, professional, so I can make that decimal incredible. I'm not thinking, man, they're saying that I've gone insane. I'm not ever gonna make it cause the game has changed. I'm not good enough, man.
The second most common 3-jump trick is this one, also known as the Natum Flick. The difference between this dribble and the one we just learned is that the dribbles or the Z are in different positions. Notice that the Z occurs in the first and third jump but not the second. Now because of that, there is something new to this trick. Because the dribbles don't happen in consecutive jumps like all the previous tricks we've learned, there is a new 3-mechanic dribble. The reason this is unlike any other dribble is because in this dribble the ball has enough time to travel its full 8 tiles on the Z because Dyna doesn't land on it after an R or S to stop the ball from rolling farther. So let's break it down. I like to think of R-zS-z as one dribble and S-z as the other. Let's start with the R-zS-z. For this 3-mechanic dribble, you only touch the ball once, but you need to land on it after your second R. First start with the RXR. Let's be creative. Your first R is 2 to 2.75 tiles away from the wall, and from that first jump, you're going to jump using a normal 3-tile R again to land here. Where does your Z go? Well, start from the same tile that you jumped off for your first R and draw a path that the ball can go 8 tiles and end up where you will land your second R. For example, it'll look like this. Now we just have the SZ, and that's easy. S goes 5 tiles and R goes 6. I'll put everything together once for you guys.
Live with every breath, see my message start to spread, and I had so many dreams. Then you hit your teens.
And once again, here's some more inspiration for this dribble.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being.
Since there's so many different variations that you can cover with Dyna mechanics, I just can't get through all of it. However, I hope you guys do see the similarities between the simplest tricks and the hardest tricks, and I hope that I've taught you something about timing and aiming with Dyna, hopefully enough so that you can make up your own angles and dribbles with these same mechanics. I thought it'd be nice to leave a couple of tricks that help you dramatically, so here's 4 quick tips that you should know. Number 1, Dyna has a 0.5 tile radius in which he can catch the ball upon landing. This gives you leeway and you don't have to aim everything to the millimeter. Similar to the first point, Dyna's attacks have a 1 tile explosion radius, meaning that ultimately where you stand before jumping matters more than where you place the stick. Remember, you don't have to keep walking straight, you can always just inch forward. Number 3 is going to be practicing in friendly, especially with new angles that no one has ever invented. This allows you to practice timing and aim with no pressure, and actually also allows you to see if the angle is even possible. If you struggle with timing, the training cave is always a good place to practice. And number 4, you can trap bots in an enclosed area which they cannot get out from to farm your super while you practice in friendlies. You can do this by making a box and putting all of the opponent's spawns and respawns inside that area, and just make sure the top of the map is similar to the map you want to practice on. This way you can practice shots without wasting your friend's time, and if you accidentally spawn inside that area instead of your opponent, just exit the match and start a new friendly. I also thought it'd be nice to include a little recap so I can emphasize the most important things we've learned. I'll leave the timestamps of where I originally explained it if you want to refer back to it. Number 1. Always break down new trick shots. For example, if you've never done an R-zS-z Dribble before, break it down into each jump. RZ is one jump and SZ is another jump. If you break it down like this, the jump doesn't seem so foreign. Number 2. If you're struggling with timing, you can always count and shoot on the 1s and 3s. Remember, refer to the timing double flick section if you have no idea what I'm talking about. This is perhaps the most useful trick. Number 3 is going to be referring back to the charts. If you haven't taken a screenshot of all 3 charts, the timestamp for them are near the bottom of the description. And obviously the 4th tip is to practice and never rush Dyna. There's no shame if you need to watch the section again or stop the video at any point because it's too overwhelming. Once again, I need to say that it took me 6 months to learn everything I teach in this video, so if you can't do it in an hour, don't be frustrated. It takes time and it takes practice. And with that, thanks so much for watching my video. If you made it to the end, you're a true champ. You listened to me speak over 5,000 words. Again, this did take more than 20 plus hours to make, so I'd really appreciate it if you share this with 1 or 2 friends if you find this useful. Aquatic Dolphin signing off for now. Cheers.
Say you love me, but you shut me out. Can't help but wonder if there's someone else.